word salad from the current vice president. All right, like many of you, I woke up this morning to some horrible news. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, I-695 in Maryland, hit by an Indonesian container ship. I think it was Indonesian container ship. Hit one of the bridge pilings and dropped the whole thing. Dropped the whole thing. I think there are no fatality numbers that I know of right now, and this is 12, 14, 16 hours later. No confirmed casualties, but I know there's people in the water that they're still looking for. The estimates early this morning were somewhere around 20. They accounted for the entire crew of the ship. And it's just horrible. Now, in the immediacy, there's been the conspiracy theories abound. Truthfully, it's been crazy. There's already people out there, oh, look, they're replaying the footage, and I saw somebody that's trying to say there were explosive charges here. You could see, he's pointing it out on all of the bridges, and you could see flashes across the top as the ship impacted it, and the people were trying to track the route of the ship, and why did it make a right-hand turn really hard and it went right for the bridge pylon. And the initial explanation, and you can see it in the film footage, is it lost power. It lost power a couple of times, and there was a mechanical failure in the rudder. Listen, I am truthfully, in most cases, an Occam's razor kind of guy. Whatever is the most likely explanation is probably the truth. I don't subscribe to a lot of conspiracy theories, and this is one I'm not buying into. I think this one is appears to be an accident, truthfully. And I if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but. And God, I hope I'm not. But this is part of a trend. And the trend is that we've got some infrastructure and transportation issues in this country. Now, most organizations, when you start to have problems like this and you start to see trends like this, you go to the person at the head. And in this case, it's somebody in the cabinet, National Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who hasn't done jack shit for 3.5 years. Truthfully, hasn't done a damn thing. This again falls on his plate. The guy who is a mayor of a mid-sized town, which only exists because of an amazing university and its supporting community. And truthfully, my understanding, he wasn't even a good mayor in South Bend. But this is, he's a Secretary of Transportation, right? This falls on him. Dual hat. Or dual, two issues. You've got a shipping issue, and then you've got a road transportation issue, right? The 695 bridge is going to be done. It's 2 years minimum to get that thing back up and running again. Guaranteed 2 years. Not to mention the cleanup in the river to make it passable by ships, right? That's going to take a while too. They're going to have to clean out one of the lanes between the pylons, right? So you can get container ships or whatever shipping through there. This is a significant thing, okay? But it's a trend. So we've got the bridge impact and collapse. So now you've got slowed shipping through there, if not stopped shipping. Plus you've got an entire, road route trucking network bypass around Baltimore that's affected. We've had multiple, as we know, as we've all been watching, multiple rail crashes, derailments across the country, all over the place, all year long, or all administration long, really for the last probably 7 or 8 years long. Okay. And that's an infrastructure issue. That's an operator issue in some cases, right? Too fast, didn't slow down. I haven't heard that I remember of any of it being a maintenance issue with the railroads. Railroads are pretty good about that. But you've got rails that aren't being maintained. You've got, training that's not being maintained with crews. There's some pretty significant issues, but it's infrastructure, a lot of it. Now you've got, in the mix of this, you've got the airports. Airports and airlines and airplanes, three different things, right? Airports, I know specifically in Chicago, that's not the only place, but airports are being used to house migrants. Okay. There's a security risk, right? It is. It's a security risk. So you've got that going on in airports. By the way, it takes away from the capacity of the airport anytime you overload it, whether it's for food, whether it's for water, whether it's for whatever. You're putting a strain on the airport itself, right? And the security issue on top of it. So that's an issue. You've got a lot of airports that are at capacity because airline travel continues to increase, and post-COVID, it's just gone up and up and up and up and up, right? So you've got a lot of airports that are at or beyond capacity when it comes to flights, and they're maxed out and they're having a hard time keeping up. You've got airline problems, right? We've all seen the memes about, passengers being allowed to bring tools on board to flights now to help with in-flight maintenance and other things. I'm not going to name any airlines, but it used to be if there was an in-flight issue, that was like hold the phone, stop the presses, the first thing on the nightly news. This airplane or aircraft or airline, they lost a piece of sheet metal off of a wing and the whole world stopped, right? That was big news. Happens all the time now. I mean, it's frightening how much in-flight, damage or, fires and, doors blown out and all kinds of other things that are going on, with these airplanes and airline. And then you got the Boeing issue. That's business. That's business practice. That's a lot of things. Okay. But there's some pretty significant impacts to the airline industry going on right now. And again, all falls under the transportation secretary. But it's all down to infrastructure. And what are we doing? Infrastructure is expensive to maintain. Very expensive. So what are we doing, right? What are we as a nation doing to maintain our ports, our airports, our major roadways, our major railways? What are we as a nation doing to maintain those things? And I'll tell you, everybody who drives, and I don't care where you live, if you drive, there's some road construction crews out there that are busting their butt. I here in PA where I live, I give these guys a lot of credit because they do absolutely everything that they can to not disrupt normal morning, evening traffic. I'm not kidding. Like, there are whole sections of road that get repaired in the middle of the night. These guys work more night shift than any state I've ever lived in all the years I was in the military and moved around. They do most of their road construction at night, and God love them because it's an amazing attempt to not disrupt things or minimize the disruption. So I give them a lot of credit. But that limits, what you can do, when you can do it, those kinds of things. That also doesn't work, unfortunately, in, major metro areas, right? Chicago, Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia, L.A., whatever. You can be doing road construction at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's still going to be busy, right? People are still driving around. So that, there's only so much you can affect on that. But road construction is only part of it. We've got the Eisenhower interstate system, which is a federal responsibility that I think the federal government has, kind of, and I'm not an expert, but they've kind of, their solution is to pay the states to do it, to fund the states to keep the interstate, the national system up and running the way it's supposed to be. I think we probably, and I'm not for big government and I'm not for a lot of bureaucracy, but we probably need to be a little bit more proactive as a nation in, maintaining those major roadways, right? The interstate system specifically. States can deal with their state roads. That's their issue. But the eyes, right? wherever you live, you know, the north-south being the odds and the east-west being the evens. But we got to maintain those roads for everyone, for commerce, for travel, for transit, for tourism, for all of those things. Those have to be maintained. But my bigger concern, truthfully, is rail and seaport. Those are not things that get fixed quickly, easily overnight. There are also millions and millions and millions of miles of rail that human beings, other than the rail, than the crews on the trains, they never see them, right? You just don't, because they're for cargo, they're freight line, right? And so few people travel via train anymore in the United States. We don't know how bad the rail lines are unless it's a commuter train. I used to hop commuter trains all the time as a kid in Chicago. That was the best way to move around, but that's not everywhere. And oh, by the way, once you get outside of the general spider web of the Chicago area, there's not a lot of train travel going on, and even less now than there used to be. So we don't see it. We don't think about it until something bad happens. Okay. So, and ports, seaports are another, like we can't survive well without those being maintained. So I think we as a nation need a little bit of a refocus on our infrastructure. I think we do need to do a little bit of refocus, reapplication of our tax dollars, applied appropriately to make sure that those are maintained. There are some things that are going to have to, suffer accordingly. And I got to be honest with you, if it's the difference between some artist in, Colorado getting a federal grant for $30,000, or, fixing a section of rail that's going to maintain commerce and communications, the artist is going without. So it's a matter of prioritization. We can't appease everybody. We got to prioritize, and there are things that need to go by the wayside to make sure that this country continues to roll and function the way that it should, and it has for the last few hundred years. So we need a better focus, and I'll lay this squarely on Pete Buttigieg, because I think he sucks, and he's useless. There's never been an administration in my memory that needed an actual transportation secretary to be active and vocal and, moving around and have these many plates spinning in the air as this administration has. And I've never seen a worse pick for a cabinet member than this guy. Like he's absolutely friggin' useless. So, hopefully the next administration, whoever it ends up being, takes a good hard look at the transportation and put some effort into it, and put somebody in there who can really jump in and fix some things, because those are things we can't let go. Like we can't let that continue to disintegrate and devolve and land in disrepair. We as a nation will be completely screwed if we let this continue down the path that it's going down. So that's another focus. Just keep an eye on the trend. It's concerning to me. I've connected some dots there, and maybe you have too. And there's probably some stuff that I'm missing, but I think in the general terms, we do have to put some focus back on that. Okay.